President Buhari urges Kano people to return APC to power in the state.
I have nothing in mind but the people of Kano, development and the future of our youth.
Court of Appeal reserves judgment in suit seeking disqualification of President-elect and Vice President-elect.
And 6 confirmed dead as train rams into BRT bus in Lagos.
So I see many people inside. There is blood inside the bus everywhere. So people move seriously.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall focus on issues and concerns about the governorship elections.
All right, after hours after the Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja granted the request by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to reconfigure the bimodal voter aggregation system, BVAS, used for the conduct of February 25 presidential and National Assembly elections. As we all know, the electoral body on Wednesday announced the postponement of the governorship and state houses of assembly elections by 1 week, and that's it from March the 11th to March the 18th.
Now, the INEC National Commissioner is in charge of voter education and publicity, said in a statement that the decision to shift the polls was made to give adequate time to back up data stored on the over 176,000 BVAS machines that were used for the presidential and National Assembly elections, and then reconfigure the same machines for the governorship and state houses of assembly polls.
Indeed, so by this decision, the campaigns for governorship and state houses of assembly elections will now, according to INEC, continue until midnight of Thursday, March 16. Of course, that will be 24 hours before the new date for the election taking place on March 18.
Now, some 420 candidates are contesting for the position of governor in 28 states. And of the number of the contestants, 394 are male and 26 are female, making it 94% male and 6% female governorship candidates. Now, only one of the candidates is a person living with disability. And
for the position of deputy governor, same 420 candidates are contesting in 28 states. Now, out of this number, 320 are male, while 100 are females, making it 76% male and 24 female. No person with disability also is included in this context.
Now, for the state houses of assembly elections, there are over 10,000 candidates who are seeking, of course, to become lawmakers. And, of course, amongst them, you have about 90%, of course, who are male, seeking, of course, to, as I said, become lawmakers, and just 10% who are female. Now, just about 24%, we understand, are persons living with disability.
So, meanwhile, the Inter-Party Advisory Council, as a fallout from its emergency meeting held on Thursday, appealed to all political parties in the electorate process to bear with INEC as it prepares for the governorship and state houses of assembly elections in March 18. Now, it is also anticipated that there will be epic battle between the political parties, especially in states like Lagos, Oyo, Rivers, Abia, Enugu, Kano, Plateau, Nasarawa, and even Benue states, which threw up surprises at the just concluded presidential poll.
No question about that, Claire. And the collaboration between political parties as well as cross-party endorsement is said to be rife with the forging of alliances amongst the political parties ahead of voting now scheduled for the 18th of March. Now, some political parties have claimed, as I said, to have formed an alliance with one candidate or another, but their headquarters have sometimes rebuked those parties acting at the state level. We have seen that, for instance, in Rivers, where Labour Party officials claimed to have endorsed the candidate of the PDP, leading to the sacking of the executive at the national level. That's to say, the executive at the national level indicating that those in charge of the party in Rivers had, of course, been shunted aside.
The same also in, I think, Oyo State also.
I believe
yes.
so, yes.
All right. So, what are the intrigues and alliances ahead of the second leg of the general elections? What does the change in date of the governorship and state houses of assembly election mean, not just to the parties and candidates, but also Nigerians and indeed the entire democratic process? Are there cost implications? On whose side? Well, some issues that we will be discussing on today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria. And once again, we're focusing on governorship polls, concerns, and issues. I am Claire Adilabu Abdurrazak. Welcome to another interesting edition of the program this Friday.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Claire and also welcome you to the program. We're live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. In the course of the program, we'll have our complementary segments, and this includes business and newspaper review. For now, let's join Ann Jibuno, who has the highlights of the morning news. Good morning, Ann.
Good morning, Kingsley and Claire. Good morning, Nigeria. Here's the news. President Muhammadu Buhari is urging the people of Kano to bury their differences and return the governing APC to power for enhanced socio-economic development of the state, describing the party's governorship candidate, Nasir Gawuna, as a dependable ally. This was when he granted audience to the candidate, who is the deputy governor of Kano State, at his Daura residence.
And he advised me make sure that I remain focused since I'm running for the governorship in my state, and make sure that the elections in Kano are peaceful.
Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State says no matter how hard the major opposition parties try to discredit the outcome of the just concluded presidential election, it remains Nigeria's freest, fairest and most credible election ever conducted since 1999. Speaking to journalists after an audience with President Muhammadu Buhari in Daura, the governor described the victory of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu in particular as a good omen for Nigeria's prosperous future.
We are also very happy because victory is sweet. And indeed, I'm happy that Nigerians once more have shown a very serious sign of confidence in our great party and in the ability of our presidential candidate to rule Nigeria.
In the meantime, the Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja has reserved judgment in a suit seeking the disqualification of the nomination of the president-elect and the vice president-elect. The court gave the order after the adoption of the final written addresses by the parties in the suit. Buhari Media Organization has applauded the position of the Nigeria Bar Association (NBA) on the 2023 presidential election as a significant and credible assessment of the electoral process that should not be ignored. A statement signed by its chairman, Nia Kinsiju, and secretary, Cassidy Madweke, BMO says it is a credit to the Buhari administration, adding that the NBA's interim report on the election revealed that about 27.1% of voters were excellently impressed with the elections, while 64.6% of the voters were somewhat satisfied. Therefore, only 8.2% rated the conduct poor or very poor. The group, however, added that NBA did not lose sight of the technical issues around the election and called on the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to ensure that all glitches in the Beavers machines and other areas of technology are fixed before the governorship and state houses of assembly elections. The group says it sees the report as one that speaks directly to the improvement that President Muhammadu Buhari pledged to bring to the electoral process, therefore appeals to Nigerians to note that if an overwhelming majority of the voting population rates the election high, then it means that the Buhari legacy of electoral reforms is on track. The group is convinced that President Buhari would go down in history as one Nigerian leader who institutionalized the country's most effective electoral reforms. A total of 6 passengers have now been confirmed dead from the train accident that occurred earlier on Thursday in Lagos. This was according to emergency responders who have concluded rescue and recovery operations at the scene of the accident.
We just returned from the emergency ward now, interacted with the chief medical officer. We saw some of the victims. Our focus now, save lives, clear the grounds, and then of course the investigative process which will be jointly carried out by the relevant bodies.
And President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed sympathy over the accident involving a train and Lagos State BRT staff bus Thursday in Shogunle area of Ikeja. In a reaction to the incident, President Buhari said the accident at the level crossing involving the train and the BRT staff bus is distressing and extremely sad, while offering prayers for the souls of the deceased and quick recovery of the many who were injured. The President commended the Lagos State authorities and federal government agencies for promptly getting involved in relief work. Meanwhile, Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has declared 3 days mourning to commiserate with families of civil servants who died in the train accident in the early hours of Thursday. The governor made the pronouncement after paying a visit to the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital to ascertain the health condition of the train accident survivors in Ikeja, Lagos.
I will also be suspending my campaign for the next 3 days. There will not be any form of public engagement or any form of campaigning during this period, so that we also can join a family in the morning.
Well, on that note, we conclude the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kingsley and Claire after this break. Please stay with us.
Bye, Mom.
He's going to play in this weather. Why did you let him go? He might fall ill.
And if he doesn't go out for practice, how will he win more trophies? To protect our family from illness-causing germs during the rainy season, we use Dettol soap every day.
Dettol with Germ Defense gives you protection. Rainy season brings a lot of germs, and Dettol soap's Germ Defense protects you from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Dettol soap is endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association. Be Dettol Show.
Every day in our country, senior citizens are discriminated against, disparaged, and treated with disdain by those who ought to respect them. We are all complicit in the way we have treated the elderly members of our society as institutions, families, or members of a shared society. Every time senior citizens get offered less than they deserve for the work they do because they are old, poor, and desperate, we are failing them. Senior citizen loses a child, and wow, they must be responsible for their death. Every time a senior citizen gets labeled a witch, is called mad, and shooed out of the way because they have no memory of where they were headed and look unkempt, we are failing them. We say, abeg, it all old, make it do die, make everybody for rest, to ailing parents, uncles and aunts. That's discrimination. That is neglect. When you see an old woman getting beat up and being accused of witchcraft, do not turn the other way. Stop and teach people that white hairs, wrinkles, and hunchbacks are no evidence of witchcraft. Aging comes with a memory decline. Sometimes it's not out of place to have elderly people lose their way, forget details of their lives, and how to properly take care of themselves. When they get to this stage, they deserve your empathy, not scorn. Our ailing fathers, mothers, aunties, and uncles are deserving of quality healthcare and peaceful transition. Make their last moments memorable. Senior citizens have paid their dues. They deserve your care. Stop all forms of discrimination against them today.
My name is Abimbola Majokodumi-Onokoya, and I'm from Abuja, Ogun State. Actually, I just got here coming from United States as a frequent flyer into Nigeria. I've never been to this airport. I've kind of heard about it, but I've never seen it. So when I came out from the airport, I was kind of disoriented a little bit, like what's going on here?
I'm Comrade Derigo Ehidiame. I'm from Edo State, Nigeria. I'm coming from a trip. I've passed through so many African countries before getting to this place. When I saw Nigeria airport, I marveled.
So I just want to commend the work that's been done here. It's a beautiful place. I mean, I made quite some videos and pictures, unlike the other airports.
Kudos to the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari.
And I give it up to Buhari for giving us this beautiful airport. I hope the maintenance culture kicks in.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Welcome back to the program. It's Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the NTA. Time for our business news, and we hear that some deposit money banks have started paying old 500 and 1,000 naira notes over the counter, but customers still continue to face rejection of the old currency. We have details with our business correspondent, Talika Banacharwa.
When making purchase of goods and services in the FCT, consumers still face hurdles spending the money freely, as some still reject the old notes.
Yesterday I collected the 5,000 after 2 hours in the bank. Nobody is collecting the 5,000 from me.
As much as the president has not said anything, nobody is taking old notes in the market.
Meanwhile, to create markets for made in Nigerian products in the international markets, boost Nigerian non-oil exports, and meet the agricultural requirements of the Gambia, the Executive Director, Nigerian Export Promotion Council, Dr. Isra Yakusak, has disclosed that 40 Nigerian exhibitors are currently attending the Gambia International Trade Fair. He noted that Nigeria could take advantage of the agricultural deficit in the Gambia to increase non-oil exports.
When we started our partnership with Smidan last year, we came up with the solo exhibition, which we did for the first time. And we went to Gambia with our exporters and our goods. We were so impressed with the reception in terms of orders generated and even on-the-spot sales of our products. Because of that, we came back home and we agreed to also leverage on the international trade fair that is ongoing right now in the Gambia.
The trade fair, which started on the 15th of February, will end on the 19th of March 2023. Let's take a look at Thursday tradings on the floor of the exchange. With business news, Alika Opanachi Arua.
Thank you very much, Alika Opanachi Arua, for the business package. Coming up next is Newspaper Review.
All right, welcome, and it's time to introduce Chukwudi. When he's here, you have to... Chukwudi, good morning.
When he's here, you have to do it. Are you introducing a comedian? Huh? What's your problem? Are you introducing a comedian? This is serious business. Kingsley, I hope you didn't hear that.
All right. Chukwudi Okoli Obaja, it's our pleasure to welcome you to this edition.
Your laughter is making it worse, but I feel welcome.
All right, I mean, for the benefit of our viewers, there's something we're sharing off camera, and that's just dovetailed now into the introduction of the newspaper review segment. It's a story on the front pages of the papers and the details of that story. Let's take a look at the window page of Blueprint. Immediately below the nameplate, you have the following headlines. Lagos train and BRT crash. Death toll rises to 6. Sanwo-Olu suspends campaign. Declares 3-day mourning. Tinubu, Gbajabiamila, Jando mourn. Driver of ill-fated BRT in our custody. That's according to the police. Controversies over February 25 polls. Buhari opens up, says there won't be another June 12. Assures Tinubu will be sworn in May 29th. Protect integrity of data from beavers, APC tells INEC. And there you have a story headline there. It says NSCDC arrests man for defrauding sex worker in Ondo. And the photo, one of the two photographs on the front page there shows the scene of the tragedy yesterday at the level crossing in the PWD area of Lagos. And then 10th National Assembly, group favors North Central for President of Senate. Women play crucial roles in Dangote Group's success story. That's according to Dangote's daughter. March 18th, we haven't seen court judgment allowing use of TVCs. TVCs meaning temporary voters card, and that's according to INEC. Kanu to sack lawyer over poor representation. Orders IPOP to stop media attacks. Play.
Yes, okay. So we take Leadership newspaper, and it has its leads reports postponement. Governors re-strategize voters with jobs and promotions. So it's on page 4. And tough race expected in Lagos, Delta, Kano, Kaduna, Gumbi, Nasarawa, and Katsina. We respect INEC's decision to postpone polls, and that's coming from the APC. Now, on the other side, Gbajabiamila tops list of contenders for Tinubu's chief of staff. It's also trending there. And just at the foot of the paper, the unfortunate incident yesterday, 6 die in Lagos train accident. Sanwo-Olu declares 3 days of mourning. It's on page 7. And woman jailed 24 years for $298,000 for 48 million naira property fraud. Troops arrest 35 terrorists, kill 21. Details of that is on page 8. And crisis in IPOP camp as Kanu seeks to replace senior lawyer. I think that's just about it on the front page of the Leadership Friday. Chukwudi.
Yeah, thank you, Claire. It's going to lead to funerals, so you will be perfectly correct to say that the mood is funereal. It's unfortunate, but the Lagos train accident death toll has been put at 6, with varying degrees of injury categorized as serious, moderate, and mild. Too late to say, oh no, not again, but it still remains the exclamation when the unpalatable happens. Is it up to 3 months when we all mourned, the passing of our colleague on the rail tracks, still in Lagos? Governor Sanwo-Olu called it preventable. So the question is, why did it happen? Carelessness? Negligence? Failure of machinery? What was it? Does the call by the FRSC Corps Marshal for construction of level crossing gates on all rail tracks indicative of there not being there? It's mind-boggling to contemplate a situation where it is not a matter of if, but when the next accident will happen. Certain things in life, I feel, are inevitable, but an accident waiting to happen abuses natural thinking. I really feel bad about this one. Ladies and gentlemen, feel bad about it. Well,
the boss was said, I'm just reading from page 7, the story on page 7. It says the boss belongs to the Lagos State government. It was used as staff bus for state employees that work at the old Secretariat GRA in Ikeja. And the bus was also conveying both Lagos civil servants and some judiciary staff. Now, here is the NRC's version. It says, the level crossing keepers of NRC at that level crossing. Yes, controlling train movement on the narrow gauge. We also have flagmen at that place controlling the standard gauge line. We were told that they stopped the driver from passing because of the incoming train, but he refused. He thought he could pass before the train. So sad.
Oh, that's not a good one. Was insanity in attendance then? And it doesn't make sense to me. You know, the reason I feel really bad about it, maybe I'm still analog, but when we were returning from Oshodi to Yanokbaja in those days, the days when you were required by natural circumstance to stand up for elderly people on a train, when we were returning, even the hooting was the sound the train makes now. It escapes me. You know, even the way it comes can wake up a dead man. So are those things not happening again? It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't. No, life is there.
I think that the circumstances of that tragedy yesterday are fairly clear from the various accounts. Interviews conducted on the spot by reporters, interactions with staff of the Nigerian Railway Corporation and survivors of the incident. There was an oncoming train. It's a very popular level crossing in Lagos, connects the GRA in Ikeja to the Abuja Motor Road, which of course is now...
It's almost the most popular, really.
Well, that's so it's there. What happened, according to one account that's been repeated across various platforms, including traditional media that have online presence, is that the flagman had stopped vehicular traffic to allow for the passage of the oncoming train from, let's say, Yanokbaja and going towards Ido. Ido, of course, is the terminus where you have the final stop for the train services. That other motorists stopped, but that this bus driver chose to overtake the buses, jump the queue, believing that it will be smart enough to get over the level crossing before the train gets to that particular spot. It was while he was trying to do that of course, no train stops automatically. We know that.
You
so it was while he was trying to do that the train, of course, rammed into the bus, dragged it for about 100 meters before it stopped.
And I hear the driver is alive.
So well,
he's been arrested also.
Just a minute. I think that the first thing that the police have done, and I'm happy that the report is also out, because yesterday I was worried that I wasn't hearing the account of what happened to the driver. Well, if the driver wasn't amongst the casualties, he's been taken into custody. That's the first thing to do. You arrest him, and when they are done with the psychiatric evaluation or whatever they intend to carry out on him, he faces trial. There are criminal charges to be preferred against him, no question about that. He was negligent, he was reckless to have undertaken what he did, and 6 dead bodies, as we speak now, are right there in the mortuary. That's one. Second thing, a train has a right of way on its tracks. A train has a right of way. Now, if you had no flagman, if you had nobody controlling the traffic at that particular point, then you might say some liability will attach to the railway corporation. The railway corporation would require months, well, not months, I don't know how long it might take, will require funds in particular to fix the coaches that were damaged. And then, of course, those coaches that were derailed. Who is going to bear that cost? We don't have the practice in our country of one government suing another for damages. But this is one instance. The bus driver was an agent of the Lagos State government. The railway corporation has suffered those damages, and the Lagos State government must be ready to compensate, not just one, compensate the railway corporation, compensate the families of those who died in this tragedy, and more importantly, the law must punish that driver for his negligence, for his carelessness, recklessness, including even manslaughter.
It's a grave matter.
It's so sad.
If there
honestly.
was something
so
you could take it further to, manslaughter is even, you know, an understatement.
It's so
but then
sad.
the law is the law.
It speaks volumes of our character. It speaks volumes of you know, being in a haste. Where are you hurrying to?
You have 80-something passengers. And this is, we have discussed occupational standards previously on Good Morning Nigeria. And the Reverend Canon Timothy Odaro joined us from our Benin Network Center. And he was saying, look, there are occupational standards for even drivers. Because on that occasion, I think we were discussing school runs that you have bus drivers convey. They said there are standards. Even the commercial vehicle drivers, there are standards, but nobody adheres to those standards. And that's why you have all kinds of incidents happening on our highways, on our roads, and passengers are at the mercy of some of these persons who are stoned on paraga and all kinds of hard drugs.
And I'm wondering what the reaction of, you know, passengers in the bus at the time he was trying to overtake, you know, even cars that have stopped.
No, they will be horror-stricken. That split second before an accident, you don't want to imagine it.
This is a Marco Polo. It's a Marco Polo bus. It's not a Volkswagen that you say, "Oh, I'll quickly."
No,
it's a Marco Polo bus.
Virtually a crawler.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what? And then you were overtaking other vehicles that had already been stopped. So what was wrong with it? What was wrong with him? You know, whether if he's crazy, if the evaluation finds out that he's crazy, no problem. The law also has a way of dealing with somebody who is medically certified to be unfit for trial. At some point, he has to face punishment for this.
There's something we must disabuse our minds of. Driving, that's commercial driving, is not a job for dropouts.
Precisely.
It is a very serious job. I told a very careless driver one day, the problem is that you don't know how important your job is to society. Self-denigration is the reason you want to kill me prematurely. Luckily, we left his vehicle intact, but I swore never to patronize him again. Ladies and gentlemen, President Muhammadu Buhari is saying that there won't be anything like June 12 again. I don't know why some people should be insinuating that the president-elect, and of course by implication, the next civilian administration would not be sworn in, might not be sworn in on May 29. I actually returned them an angry, why would anyone ever think that when they said it? Sometimes you wonder why some of us have chosen negativity, you know, bad thoughts as a vocation. It doesn't make sense to me at all. And I dare say that some of the coups that happened in Nigeria arose from the feeling by ambitious military adventurers that public opinion favored martial music on radio. People take certain things, you know, lightly. The public should beware of what thoughts it throws into the polity we are saying here. The good thing is that President Muhammadu Buhari has remained staunch in saying there will be an election and the civilian administration will come in to succeed mine. I think that's enough for us.
Well, there's nothing else to say. I don't think there's actually an issue around whether or not
there shouldn't be
the president-elect will be sworn in on the 29th of May. I think probably the references are to the court cases that we have currently ongoing. If the courts decide otherwise, then that would be a different issue. But June 12 was an intervention by the military presidency at that time that stopped the formal and final announcement of the results. And so the spirit of June 12 doesn't arise on this occasion at all. That's right. Chukudi, thank you very much for being our guests and, of course, our reviewer.
Thanks a lot.
I hope you enjoy your weekend.
I hope I sounded serious enough. Claire started off by introducing a comedian.
Well, you're a serious-minded fellow. I mean, there's no question about it.
Thank you for the certification.
I don't want you to say that.
It's Friday.
Chooks the Atomica. Chooks the Atomica.
He's giving me Atomica from Messi. La Pulga Atomica.
And then, of course, you know, Man U tried to redeem themselves yesterday against Real Betis in one of the lower tier European champions, European leagues. So that's what it is.
Ended this session.
4-1, and so it was okay. But that the scar of the 7-0 that collected from Liverpool. That scar.
If you're an Arsenal fan. Yes, thumbs up.
It was only 2-2. The Emirates will correct whatever went wrong.
All right,
it was a Labour draw.
Labour draw. There he goes again. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Mom. He's going to play in this weather. Why did you let him go? He might fall ill.
And if he doesn't go out for practice, how will he win more trophies? To protect our family from illness-causing germs during the rainy season, we use Dettol soap every day.
Dettol with germ defense gives you protection. Rainy season brings a lot of germs, and Dettol soap's germ defense protects you from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Dettol soap is endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association. Be Dettol sure.
Candidates who are interested in gaining admission into NTA Television College JOS for the 2022-2023 two-year National Innovation Diploma Program are to apply for admission through the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board JAMB. Courses available at the college include Film and Television Production, Broadcast Journalism, and Television Engineering Technology. Interested candidates must have a minimum of 5 O-level credits in relevant subjects including English and mathematics. They must also have a minimum score of 100 in the 2022 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination UTME. For more information, please contact NTA Television College, JOS, or the Marketing Department of any NTA station nationwide. Registrar, Announcer.
Dialogue, empathy, love, and unity. These are vital components of nation building.
For all to be well, we appeal that we should refrain from volatile, provocative, inciting messages and language.
Let's build and not destroy.
Nigerians, elections are here again. Let us shun violence. Let us play the game according to the rules. Do not be a thug. Say no to violence. Let's rise and defeat violence, crime, and sabotage against the peace of our nation. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must do everything to keep it united. We must avoid any act that promotes hate and disintegration. Say no to separatist movement, terrorism, fake news, hate speech, religious bigotry, and any act that tends to divide us as a nation. Watch out for strange gatherings and suspicious movements. Restrict access to sensitive documents and data, the disclosure of which may damage national security. Educate your staff and family, particularly on measures to safeguard information and report security breaches. Apply relevant legal security guidelines to protect yourself and your neighbors. Due to misinformation and wrong choices, some idle persons resort to vices in their greed to get rich quick. They resort to kidnapping, killings for rituals, and other heinous crimes. Avoid wrong use of the social media. Before you broadcast that false message, think twice. Ask whether it will promote peace or violence. For safety at home, still be security conscious. Educate your household on safety tips. Report all suspicious movements and persons to the security agencies nearest to you. Be a good citizen. Be patriotic. To pass security information, please call 0813-222-2105, 0915-339-1309, 0908-837-3514, or send a mail to dsspr@dss.gov.ng. This message is from the Department of State Services, DSS.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on NTA's network service. Now, as a prompt for our conversation, which is on concerns and issues around the rescheduled governorship elections, let's take this background put together by Ekene Undulwe, our correspondent.
Nigeria's 2023 presidential and National Assembly election is easily defined by analysts and observers as the most keenly contested in the nation's recent history. Surprises were sprung with underdogs winning in unlikely places and candidates losing in their perceived strongholds. Though the election has come and gone, But some parties are upset with the upsets recorded and have gone to challenge the outcome in court. The governorship and state houses of assembly elections, slated for March 11, is the first casualty of the court processes. The denial by the appeal court of INEC's application seeking variation of its orders to candidates to inspect electoral materials has made INEC to reschedule governorship and state houses of assembly elections to Saturday, March 18. Before then, the intrigues had already started playing out, with some parties sponsoring fake news and misinformation about their opponents, while some are whipping up sentiments to galvanize support from voters across the states. Stories of defections and candidates stepping down for others have been rife in the news. Some parties have also come out to disassociate itself from any alliance with any political party. And in Rivers in particular, Labour Party announced the dissolution of the party's state executive council in the state for aligning with candidates from another political party. Similarly, Accord Party has sacked its party executive council in Oyo State for endorsing Governor Makinde of PDP against the party's candidate in the state. It will be noted that governorship election will only hold in 28 states, while the remaining 8 states will have theirs later at different dates. State houses of assembly elections will also hold in 993 state assembly constituencies. What are the lessons from the presidential and national assembly elections? How can the electoral umpire improve on the last election? Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will be speaking on these and other issues around the March 18 governorship and state houses of assembly elections.
All right, Ekenen Delue, thank you for the background report there. And again, just to remind you, if you've just tuned in, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and our focus is on governorship polls, concerns, and issues. Let me begin with introductions. We have right here in our studio Barrister Kenneth Okonkwo is the presidential spokesperson for the Labour Party Obidati Presidential Campaign Council. I would like to welcome him to Good Morning Nigeria. Always a pleasure to see you. It's been a long time.
Thank you very much, and thank you, viewers, for tuning in.
All right. We also have here with us is a regular face, Oluwole Osaze Easy. He's a legal practitioner, election expert, and of course, most importantly, former director voter education and publicity of INEC. Always a pleasure to have you, Barrister.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. We also have in the studios Alista Shoyode. Is an entrepreneur and a leadership activist. Alista, we're glad to have you on the program this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, gentlemen, we were expecting another guest to join us later on in the course of the conversation. We're talking about concerns and issues around the governorship election. By this morning, it would have been the eve of the governorship and state house of assembly polls, previously scheduled for the 11th of March. How much destabilization or stabilization does the postponement bring into the election calendar? Well, let's begin with Barrister Kenneth Okonkwo.
Well, you know, in management, it's always settled that where there is confusion at the corporate level of management, the confusion spreads down to every part of the organization. What you're seeing in Nigeria today is the confusion that is happening both at the governmental level, in the executive position at the highest level, and in INEC itself. In Nigeria today, where you know people book their flight almost 1 week before the time, people traveled all the way from abroad. Then you waited for 24 hours for the 8 hours and 72 hours before calling off an election which you know you will call off. And why did I say they know they will call it off? They say it takes, according to them, at least 5 days to reconfigure the beavers. As at the time you were approaching it, 5 days before the time when you know you have not reconfigured it? Why don't you announce it? You kept quiet to use it as a ploy. You went to court to swear to an affidavit that you would need the court to vary the order in order that you can have the election on the 11th. When you know inside of you, you cannot. Just to get that order to tamper with the beavers. Now, having gotten the order, you now sat down to say you are postponing it. That is dishonesty. That is incompetence. Happening with Professor Mahmoud Ainek, and it's spreading down to everybody. It's a shame and it's unfortunate.
I know you feel, I know how you feel, you know, but
you
for you, for your party,
yes,
for your party, how much of a destabilization is this postponement?
Well, you know, we are,
Is there any cost to your party?
We are the obedience. And we are rooted in the people of Nigeria. Whatever shenanigan they bring, we'll take them on and take them out. We welcome to a new Nigeria. We're not afraid of their dishonesty, because the triumph of good over evil is certain and must come to pass. We, the obedience, we will take over this nation and hand it over to competent leaders. So they have failed, and that's why we're in, to remove the structure of corruption and criminality that they have introduced.
So for you, you know, on our program, we'll try to make our conversation, you know, conversational.
Very, very.
And yes, so we would like you to just give us, you know, your party's perspective,
yes,
you know, to what has happened. Yes.
My party's perspective is very simple. We have lost confidence in Professor Mahmoud for his dishonesty and incompetence. My national chairman, Comrade Julius Abure, said this thing yesterday. It was broadcasted. So that is my party's position. And what is Professor Mahmoud waiting? He has removed the Sokoto wreck, removed the Abia wreck. He has not removed the Lagos wreck. Where all this hatred, where ethnic jingoists and religious fanatics are using out ethnic hatred, where you can see in the videos released by retards and insane people, because it will take insanity for you to be spewing out what you're spewing out, and yet the wreck of Lagos is still allowed to be there.
Okay, Kenneth Okonkwo, thank you for your initial response. A few things to straighten out. One, you used a very strong word about dishonesty. Neither the INEC chairman nor an official of INEC is on set with us at this time to immediately respond to the allegations and claims that you are making. And so we have no proof whatsoever at this time to substantiate your claim of dishonesty. That's a serious allegation against a public official. And so, as my colleague also advised, let's stay within the boundaries of this conversation. Yes, you can feel hurt, you can feel challenged by the postponement or rescheduling of the elections and by what went on previously. But the key thing is to get out the appropriate message so that we have a smooth conversation. I want to bring in now Alistair Ashoyede against the backdrop of what played out on the 25th of February and what we were supposed to have on the 11th of March. What do you make of the rescheduling of the governorship elections?
Well, thank you very much. Coming from the diaspora and monitoring what's happening in Nigeria is not something that Nigerians outside the country are happy about, without any doubt. We noticed what the international organization have reported on the election, and we noticed what the Nigerian people have said, and we noticed the turnout of the people who actually voted. This is one of the lowest turnout in the Nigerian history. Bearing in mind that technology was supposed to be the pinnacle of this election, meaning that there was expectation of between 50 to 60 million people actually to have gone and voted. That didn't happen. So one has to take that into account, that Nigeria, the most populous black nation, yet turning out the least number of people that are voting for the candidate. Nevertheless, that is the choice of the people. But there's no doubt as well, just a few days ago I did mention that the election is likely not to take place on the 11th, because we're talking about 170 polling units across the country. More than that, 170,000 polling units. And if this machine needs to be restructured or reconfigured, as it is said, it takes human beings to go through these machines across the country. There's no way, bearing in mind what we have noted on the 25th, that INEC can do that. So the question is, can they? And of course, now we have seen. But again, to be honest, is a big economic chaos on the Nigerian people. As somebody who just arrived in the country, trying to monitor the election on the 11th, now it's not going to take place on the 11th. And the majority of people who work in a system well constructed abroad, now their system is being disorganized completely. And many people will leave the country to go back to where they're coming from, because there are things that you must follow, and which is normal. Right now, as you can see, many governors are trying to actually impress voters. But the joy of this election is that people know that now their seat is no more permanent, that the people of Nigeria can speak, and the Nigerian people too can take into account that actually their votes somehow do matter, and they are now in control of their destiny. What I do hope for by the 18th is that INEC, bearing in mind all these consequences of things they created by themselves, because they are the referees of this organization. They are the referees of this election. Nobody can take the blame. If you make promises from day one, for months, you requested for fund, the fund was given to you. You said this is how you're going to run the election. People listened, the whole world was excited about it. The Nigerian people were excited about it. Yet, you end up not following your due process, not following what you say you're going to do. Is a disgrace on the commission. Bearing in mind opinion, international opinion, and strategic opinion, definitely say these people who are in charge after this election, bear in mind that they stay till after this election, all of them from the top in that management board must go.
Right, Adisa, thank you for your opening remarks. We now bring in Osaze Uzi, who also is an election expert and former director, voter education and publicity of INEC. Barrister Uzi, I mean, obviously the reconfiguration of, the BVAS was inevitable. It was inevitable that that would happen. Yes. INEC had known that ab initio, yes, that it would happen. Whether or not, there were court cases or whatever, it would have to reconfigure the BVAS for the next election. Correct. Now my question is, was the postponement inevitable? And I'm wondering, did INEC not have considered that, the fact that it would take this length of time to reconfigure the BVAS before even setting, the governorship election?
Thank you. No. The date for the governorship election was fixed more than 1 year ahead of time. It was originally fixed, and when the Electoral Act was now passed to say you have to give a minimum notice of 360 days, it actually shifted backwards by 2 weeks, if I remember correctly. So yes, a year ago, the date was fixed. You don't wait for the first election to take place first before you fix the date. You fix the date well ahead of advance. INEC knew was going to reconfigure this BVAS, but if you are going to ask me further details about things that inform the commission, I don't speak for the commission. I would not know what did. So what transpired, it's only a spokesperson for the commission who can do that with personal knowledge. I can only use analogous situations to explain what may or may not have been. But one thing I know, dates for elections were fixed. Yes, it is correct. The commission knew that these equipments were going to be reconfigured. But from the facts in the public domain, a court order was served on the commission last week Friday. And when it saw the way it was, they don't tamper with things. Now, I don't know what would have happened, but how would it have looked like if after the controversies arising from the first election, the Presidential National Assembly elections, INEC went ahead and started reconfiguring it immediately thereafter? Immediately after the election took place, or immediately after results took place? How would you have felt? How would anybody feel? That there's a controversy over why you refused or failed to upload these things, controversy over scores and stuff like that. a controversy over number of registered voters as captured in, voters who were accredited, and then you go ahead and INEC staff are saying fiddling, officially reconfiguring this equipment, but how would that optics be like? It couldn't have gone ahead. And then this order was now served. Don't tamper with it, don't do anything with it. The commission said, well, we have an election in a few days' time, in a week's time. We need to vary this order, explain to the court that, look, we need to reconfigure these beavers so that we can prepare for the next election. And reconfiguration, you have to understand the things. For example, the beavers were programmed to start on the 25th of February, probably 8:30 in the morning until about 6 or 7. For that particular day, before you use it for any other exercise, you have to reprogram it, you have to reset it, you have to reconfigure it for the next exercise, stating the date and the time. It will not start before that time. And it cannot continue after the specified time without reconfiguration. So the SADC said, if we start doing this now, this will be too controversial. And this may be, when he got the order on Friday, contrary to the order of the Court of Appeal. So the way I understand it, as I said, facts on public domain, it went on Monday to say, court, please help us vary this order so that we can satisfy the petitioners, the people asking for it, by giving them whatever information or data or inspection they want to do, but at the same time carrying out our constitutional responsibility of undertaking the next set of elections. It's time bound. You cannot conduct elections, or constitution specified, not earlier than 150 days, not later than 30 days to the expiration of tenure.
Let me just ask you before Kingsley comes in.
Yes.
I don't, well, I'm not the expert. I don't know. I'm just a layman, as anyone watching me. Yes. I don't know the capacity of the beavers. But there are those who think and are speculating that the beavers has capacity to even accommodate both the governorship and the state houses of election without even the configuration of the presidential and national assembly elections.
Part of the challenge I think we have in information management is the fact that too many people are speaking, too many people speak without knowledge and without all the facts. I don't have all the facts. In a sense, technologically, I'm as lay as you are in this regard. And some of the people speaking have never seen the beavers, have never examined the beavers, do not know the capabilities or the reasons for why they do the things that they do. So it's unhelpful, very unhelpful. It's misleading, and it's all part of this misinformation and disinformation. It will be, you don't speculate. You analyze, you sit down, analyze based on the facts that you know. Knowledge is very important, not speculative knowledge. I understand that these equipments or similar equipments can be used for different cycles of elections. But the Commission will be in a better position to explain why it said it had to reconfigure it. But it's important that you configure, because of the country that we are in, not just the capabilities of the equipment itself, but you have to understand your process, you have to understand your culture, you have to understand the politics of the country and the optics. These things are very important. Our phones can do so much, but most of us don't use it. You say, look, I only want to do WhatsApp calls and text, and I'm okay with it. But there's so much more it can do. The fact that the machine can do something doesn't mean you use it for all the purposes it can be used for. You don't optimize its capacities. In this particular case, I've explained to you, for example, that it's been a tradition, at least I'm more familiar with the smart card reader. Mm-hmm. You program it so that if you don't program it for a specific time, that means it can be used at any time. Ensure that it doesn't start earlier than the scheduled time to commencement of the election, 8:30. So that at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock or earlier in the morning, people don't go and feed things into it. And also that it shuts down at a particular time such that everybody who is on the queue as at the scheduled time of closing 2:30 or make some allowance for lateness, challenges of delivery and logistics delivery and stuff like that. So you give a leeway, couple more hours so that everybody who's entitled to, and then it shuts down. If you leave it open-ended, for example, then the following day at midnight at 2 a.m., people can do all sorts of things. This is informed by it's all about transparency. It's informed by the fact that we know our environment. Maybe in a different climate, that may not be necessary. They program it for their own particular situation. It is customized. That's why.
Yeah, well, Sazel, thank you very much. Also, very importantly, the date and time stamp on the Beavers machine. We had the opportunity of having two INEC deputy directors of ICT, who were our guests well ahead of the elections, explaining the beavers, and before they had the mock accreditation exercise, and then after the mock accreditation exercise, what the beavers could also be used for. And to the fact that you can't take a beavers from AMAC, for instance, and say you want to go and use it in Buari if it's not configured for use in Buari. But they are, AMAC and Buari are two of the 6 area councils in the Federal Capital Territory. And by the way, I know that question might arise, because yesterday we had an explanation that all the 176,000 plus beavers machines are not coming to the headquarters for reconfiguration. The reconfiguration was taking place at the local government level, and you have the tech experts who will handle that while the process is going on. One aspect of this election, shortly after the polls closed, and when we had our first 2 programs on Good Morning Nigeria, I did talk about trying to wrap my head around some of the paradoxes that we were seeing with the results. Yeah, there were complaints ultimately about the presidential election results, but we also saw surprises in terms of what played out. Lagos, for instance, Osun, another, and elsewhere, Delta, where the PDP had the vice presidential candidate and couldn't take the state. Many are saying that there is a momentum that has been generated by the numbers out of the February 25th election, and that those numbers were going to be part of the momentum carried on to the 11th of March. Hence, as Okonkwo was saying earlier, you've seen some of the antagonistic responses and of course, hate speech that we have seen. Is any momentum being arrested by the reschedule of the elections? Or parties can still ride on what they'll be doing? Nasarawa is there, Benue is there. It looks like you have many governorship races that are wide open.
Well, let me...
sorry, I would like... you want to weigh in on this, or...
Now, let me comment. First of all, you know, when we talked about the reconfiguration, I just want to mention a word in it. Election is a process. And when you tamper with an original process, it has a way of affecting other processes. We didn't have any reason to talk about reconfiguration if INEC had simply done what they ought to do by the guidelines. The results were to be uploaded from the polling unit. And every Nigerian, as promised by INEC, ought to have it on the IREV portal. IREV simply means INEC Result Viewing Portal, meaning as the result is being announced, collated, announced, is transmitted, uploaded, the hard copy of the result will be snapped by the beavers, uploaded on the portal. INEC had started doing this before even getting the power to transmit result electronically. So this was INEC's own invention. Then the result was to be transmitted, which is the high point of the Electoral Act 2022, from the polling unit on that same day. If it had been done, the whole Nigerians would be with the result before the next day. And the issue of reconfiguration wouldn't even have arisen. It is to our shame that almost 12 days after the presidential election, that INEC has purportedly collated and announced with results obviously from the pit of hell, because it is stated in the act that you can only collate and announce results which have been uploaded in the beavers by the act. And let me be specific. Section 60, subsection 456, section 64, subsection 456, they're very clear that you dare not collate and announce result except it is subject to.
I think these are matters that will be canvassed in the course of
No, what I'm saying, the reason for the reconfiguration.
Yeah, I understand.
There ought not to have been a reason for that.
Question I asked, yes.
Good.
Yes.
Now, coming to your question, like I said, the beautiful point of the election of 25th of February is that power has been returned to the people of Nigeria. The Constitution is very clear. Sovereignty belongs to the people. And power in a democracy has nothing to do with political party. It has nothing to do with one strong individual who has or should have only one vote. The people are the custodian of the power in a democracy. And that is what they demonstrated, saying, if this is our choice, respect it. So the whole thing about obedient movement, which has the momentum, is rooted in the philosophy of Nigerians that they want a new Nigeria. It has nothing to do with party. So like you said, there was a conscious attempt to dampen the spirit of these people who, as he said...
I didn't say that.
Yeah, you said what happened, especially hate speech and all those, in dampen the spirit of the people and their enthusiasm.
No, he is asking the postponement of this election.
Yes.
What impact will it have
on
within the context? Yes.
That's what I'm saying. When he said momentum, obviously he mentioned Delta State, which was won by the obedience. He mentioned Lagos State, which was won by the obedience. And when he says momentum, a reasonable person will say it is these new realities.
I also mentioned Benue, which was won by APC.
Good. So the momentum...
I also mentioned Osun, which was mentioned by
The momentum is not just an area in states won by the Labour Party. Good. It's across.
That is
so we're just looking generally at the momentum across the country.
And that is what I am saying, that there is a conscious effort to dampen such momentum through, one, voter suppression, voter intimidation. You can see how people, even their businesses after the election, were being destroyed. This is an intentional act to dampen that momentum. And I agree with him. Yes, it had the effect of affecting the momentum. But I am advising Nigerians that if they succumb to the blackmail of intimidators and manipulators, then that dream they have of a new Nigeria will no longer come. So they have to be steadfast. They should not allow such things to dampen their morale. They should move on the 18th of March. In the vote will not count, but that's what is happening. They tell you and destroy your business. Specifically, like you said, I've seen videos, people telling you in Lagos, they know born you well to come and vote for this person of your choice. This is obviously intended to dampen the momentum, but it will not, because they acted on conviction. This is the first time Nigerians are voting without anybody giving them money, especially on the people that dethroned those powerful forces you have mentioned. The vice president losing his state, the vice presidential candidate of PDP losing his state, the APC presidential candidate losing his state, the national chairman of APC losing his state, the director general of APC losing his state, and they're pulling units.
But Kenneth Okonkwo,
yes,
let's contextualize, your response now.
Proceed.
When you say the postponement, has the tendency of, dampening the momentum.
Oh, yes.
And you have restricted the momentum to members loyal to your party. That is not...
I am here to represent Labour.
Let us look
I don't know what...
How?
Mm-hmm.
How?
Yes.
Some people believe that this is now giving parties the leeway
yes.
to even further campaign, do more reaching out.
Mm-hmm.
So all parties are expected to, utilize the opportunity provided by the postponement
yes.
to reach out. That's one. It is also a leeway, critics say, to enable INEC, better or correct some of the, glitches that it recorded in the past election.
Yes.
So within what context do you think that this will dampen momentum of some parties' supporters?
We don't need one day extra. We're ready as at 2019. Haven't you heard about the third force? We don't need one day extra. Obedience are ready to take over the nation. They're just delaying us for nothing. In February 25th election, what happened? And you're saying they are wasting our time and resources. People came all the way from UK, from USA to vote for us, and look at the expenses they are going to be made to go through.
It's not just about Labour Party.
So the postponement.
Are you having foreigners vote, or you're having outsiders
We
vote
have
in the election?
Nigerians living abroad who came home to vote. I know specifically of one man from my polling unit. He approached me. He said, look, people thought I'm crazy. I have only one child. And he's autistic. And my wife had left me. I had to take him to fly the child to Nigeria. He says he's from Netherlands. I have to be specific. And that I came because of this vision of a new Nigeria. And he came and he voted. And he wanted to stay for the governorship. And you now say you are postponing. We don't need such postponement.
Okay.
After collecting 306 billion naira from the coffers of Nigeria.
We understand it's about 305 billion. So 1 billion is a lot of money.
Because approximately.
Barrister,
I said about.
You said 306. I'm saying
about
what we know is 305 billion.
Okay.
Because if you remember, Justice Oviewiski, who used to be chairman of FEDECO during the Second Republic, said if he saw $1 million naira cash, he would collapse. So 1 million. Now you are saying 1 billion. So let's be worried about the arithmetic.
All right.
Let's bring in
Alistair.
Yes.
Alistair, the Court of Appeal, in its wisdom during the ruling, granted both parties, both INEC, its prayers to reconfigure, and even the parties, who had gone to court. They said, look, you also have leeway to review, the materials. So it's a win-win. It's a win-win all the way. No party is, has been disenfranchised in the system. So I'm wondering now, how might this postponement affect the political parties, in terms of campaign, and before we look at other factors that may arise?
Well, another option here, or another addition, is when we talk about the BOS machine earlier, that they are programmed for a specific unit. I want to disagree a little bit, because during the election on the 25th, there are places that the BOS machine were not working. And we saw the INEC exec saying that they wait for another machine from another unit to be brought to that place for them to use it. How come, therefore, were they able to use that BOS machine from another polling unit? Those videos are on the record, so they can Google it and you will come across them. So they are there. So it means that the BOS machine, because they're computers, you can reprogram them, is instruction. The other point as well that need to be taken into account is that this data were inputted inside the BOS machine after the election, which technically were not supposed to be, as we have all heard from the speakers. Now, on the issue of changing the date or moving the date to the 18th, there's nothing people can do than to be patient. The governors, those who want to be re-elected, are now knowing fully well. Of course, most of them are jittery because of the effect of the other political parties gaining ground, or people not coming out to vote on the 25th. Because, as I said,
on the 18th?
On the 25th of February.
Okay.
Yeah, because the fact is the number of the percentage of people that came out to vote is much more lower. Yeah. And so it meant that people either were coming out to vote. You know what I said is, when you go to the polling unit, you already have your people within your community who are there. And then now you're calling them to say, are they there? And then they say, no, they're not here yet. It meant that there's no need for you to rush and go and queue. So many people who have people on the polling unit are having information not to turn up because the INEC officials are not there, or there's a problem with the machine. Again, that may lead to the reason why we end up having that percentage of people who voted on the 25th. There's nothing that can be done now than to wait for the 18th. And the people, once again, should know that the authority, the power belongs to them. They can see governors going out, making new requests, making more promises. But whatever it is, even if they make the promises rightly now, they will know that the 4 years that they used to take for granted is no more there. It means that for those who are coming into office for the first time, in the next 4 years, If they do not deliver their promises, they are guaranteed that they will not be re-elected. So for me, this is the beauty of this election, that people have now known that they have the authority to vote, and people who think that their seat is permanently for them can't go home because people are now deciding to vote otherwise.
Well, Alistair, thank you very much. I think that that's probably one of the most interesting features of this year's general elections after the presidential and National Assembly polls. The fact that a number of incumbents and safe seats and safe states feel jolted by the outcomes, disputed as some of those outcomes are. And therefore you find candidates now as incumbents crisscrossing their states, making fresh pledges, fresh promises, and getting the right optics to go in there. We'll come back to that aspect later on in the course of the conversation. I want to return to Osaze Ozie. I know that he doesn't like having conversations around the nitty-gritty of the politics itself, but something about governance, and in this case, of governance of the election management body. How can the perception be managed, if you may, or how do you say this to a lay person, to say, look, when you take your step back to every election that we've had over the past 4 or 5 cycles, general elections, we've had one postponement or the other. In 2011, the elections were already on, and then it got arrested for a couple of days. 2015, the elections had to be postponed for 6 weeks in order to, of course, to say, look, no, we couldn't put our men and materials on the way to some of the northeastern parts of the country. And then, of course, in 2019, we were told that logistic challenges came up. And here we are in 2023. We had the first round of elections against the backdrop of heavy speculation that the elections might not hold as scheduled. The first round took place, and then right in there, I know that explanations have been provided, but suddenly we're having, again, to shift one of the elections. As I said, anybody who looks back and just takes a cursory examination of 2011, 2015, 2019, 2023, what does that suggest about governance issues around election planning and election management and governance?
Thank you. In answering that, we should have a look at the reasons. You've outlined some of the reasons for this postponement. Now, and I'll also take you back, since you've taken me down memory lane and down history, let's just go back to 2007. Some of these issues, the election management body, INEC, is responsible, has to take responsibility for the shifts and the postponement. And in that case, you put the blame squarely where it lies. Logistics challenges in 2011, elections had commenced. And halfway through, or partway through, you now say you have to postpone it. Commissioner has absolute responsibility for that, and he should have known, so he probably shouldn't have commenced. In 2015, security, based on an advisory by the National Security Advisor, the person legally and constitutionally who gives advice to the president, to the nation, National Security Advisor. He now goes to advise the statutory body that, look, we don't think it's safe for you to conduct this election. That is not INEC. If INEC resisted it initially, I said, look, no, we will not listen to NSA speaking from London, Chatham House in the UK and tell us that we should postpone elections. There are channels of communication. So the Commission disregarded it. It wasn't directed at it, so you are telling the world, but you're not telling us. There are ways, we have ways of communicating with each other. So initially, but when he came back, to be fair, the then National Secretary now wrote formally to the Commission stating his reasons and giving, I guess, some evidence or give reasons anyway. The Commission now looked at it and said, no, we have to act. That's not the Commission's fault. In 2019, a few hours to the commencement of polls, logistics challenges, INEC had to postpone it. That totally was his fault. In 2023, I think the Election Commission probably had more reason to postpone the election than at any of these previous cycles, as far as I'm concerned. Against the backdrop of shortage of cash, against the backdrop of lingering fuel crisis, the availability, the cost, against the backdrop of, look, you have, I think Mr. Konko talked about 305 billion, for example, but we all know how much difference there had been. For example, let's take price of petrol between when the budget was approved and when it had more than doubled. So things were there that will ordinarily destabilize things. So it's a near miracle that these elections took place at all. So let us situate that. Some were, the commission was absolutely responsible, and if the commission, for example, had not heeded to the advice of the National Security Advisor and gone ahead, and there was violence, there were killings, what will the average person say? What will they say? So look, put things in context. In 2007, because of a court order, recall that Atiku Abubakar was a candidate and was excluded from said he was excluded, and went to court to challenge that. And the court ruled, I think, on the 16th, a few days, less than 2 weeks to the elections. The commission probably could have, I would believe in hindsight, maybe should have postponed the election, but it did not. It had not been done before, so insisted on going on. 2007 was a time that INEC, due to the haste in ensuring the election went ahead, printed ballot papers without serial numbers, contrary to Electoral Act.
And that became an issue.
It now became an issue and went to the Supreme Court. In fact, it was a unanimous decision. 4 justices said, look, well, yes, this is contrary to the Act, but there was otherwise substantial compliance. It did not lead to, the petitioners failed to show how they were disadvantaged by the non-printing of serialized ballot papers. 3 of the justices said, no, the law states that you must serialize the ballot papers so that we can track them, and for auditory purposes, we think it is substantial enough. So even amongst the most learned people in the land, justices of the Supreme Court, there was almost an even split. It was the CJ and the Chief Justice of Nigeria who, there was a tie. He now cast his lot with those who said it was not substantial. Now, would it not have been better if that
was a very interesting decision to read? Justice Nikki Toby sat on that panel.
Correct.
Very intense arguments back and forth. And when you have such split decisions, it gives you a sense that, look, nothing is being fixed. You know,
gone either way.
That's right.
Okay, I also want to take this question from you before it escalates to Barrister Kenneth and Alistair. I know in my lifetime, I haven't seen any electoral cycle that has generated so much ethnic and religious divide, especially in the southern part, in the southern part of the country. The tension is palpable. I mean, can we exonerate both the youth and the old politicians from all of this? And what can be done?
It is a very sad commentary that in this country of 2023 we are seeing these kind of things play out. It's a very sad commentary, and I'm very worried because it was not always so. Altine, that name resounds. There are names of people. There are people who won elections from outside their ethnic stock, let me put it that way. They came from one part of the country, contested elections in other parts of the country, and won. That was not so much an issue. That's at the time that maybe ethnicity and other primordial considerations probably have been higher. We have moved 50 years, 60 years hence, but rather than move forward and get more integration, we have regressed in that regard. And that is so very unfortunate, very unfortunate indeed, and it doesn't bode well for the country.
We keep blaming the elite. The elite. We see the elite shake hands. We see the elite arrive at the airport. They hug. But
the elite are influencers, and they should take responsibility. They should take responsibility because they encourage this. They can do this at daytime, at night. They say other things and do other things. They fan the embers of this division. And unfortunately, the grassroots, if I use that term, as opposed to the elites, are sucked into it. And they are at the front lines, whereas the generals always stay behind. The generals are not always at the same level of exposure. They do these things and send their foot soldiers, and then they stay behind. But we all, everybody, be it elites, be grassroots, we all have a lot to lose if this thing is not nipped right now.
Alistair, I would like Alistair to weigh in on this. Okay. If you're looking at this from the outside, what impression do you get, and what do you think should be done to douse the kind of tensions that have been raised and are still being raised ahead of the governorship elections?
I think the law really is the criteria here that need to be upheld, the law of the land. Do we have law-abiding citizens? And is the law really effective across all board to every citizen?
Is it a matter of law? Or?
It is. Because why do I say so? Because people can see the elected getting away with murder and nothing is happening. So if you can see your leader committing a crime and getting away with it, how can you stand where people do not participate in something, yet you are now bringing them to contest for something? There are governors right now, even from the southeast to be precise, whereby we are reading, they are saying that if you do not elect somebody from this particular political party, I have nothing to do with you. Now, this is one state which actually does not have more than 3 different ethnic language or group in that particular state. Yet the governor is telling his citizen that if you don't elect a person from this party, I have nothing to do with whoever it is that you're going to elect to come into the State House of Assembly. One state, one people, one destiny. Yet here in Nigeria, we're now the nation of more than 300 different ethnic groups. So you can kind of vary the understanding of the people, whereby you have one that is one people, yet fighting, compared to one that is 350 plus, yet having different opinion. So our elected, our leaders must, as a priority, in fact, whichever government come into office on the 29th, the first thing that they need to do is to unite this country by bringing everybody together, by showing commitment that they mean unity and unity of purpose for the greater benefit of the Nigerian people. Because Nigeria leads, and people used to say when Nigeria gets things right, the African continent will succeed. The black race will succeed. When we get it wrong, we shouldn't blame the Western so-called media for saying, look at Nigeria, this is what they do. And then when you go out now and the Western media or the Western people recognizes you by something that you are known for, because news follow each and every one of us. So when we suffer in the diaspora, it's because of what people are reading that is happening in our own dear country. And that's why they treat us anyhow that they are treating us. Because you can see, look at the Nigerian person, look at the way this senior executive treat his own citizen. Well, if your own person can treat you as an animal or as a below human being, what about us? So don't complain that we're treating you roughly, because look at your own story. We read it. We saw the videos. How can you just go and burn people? How can you just go and attack people just because they have a different opinion? And yet now you live in Canada, in the United Kingdom, in the United States, and you're complaining that we didn't give you a good house with heating and the necessary thing. We didn't treat you in your own hospital. Don't you have a hospital where you're coming from? Yet you can tell us we're Nigerians. So how people treat us outside is the way that our own people, our own so-called blood family, black to black, is treated. And that news is there in front of the whole world.
Okay, just before we take a break, Barrister Kenneth Okonkwo, we all need, peace, a peaceful environment, because before we can even govern, or before we can rule. Without being too much sentimental, we'll like you now, because this is what is playing out now is between the youthful movement and the old brigade. That's where the clash. The old brigade who do not want change, and the youth movement who want to take it by force. How can we just stem this?
You see,
what can we do?
It's very easy. We don't have a problem with our laws. We have a problem with the execution of those laws. Mm-hmm. Section 97 of the Electoral Act is very clear. It's a criminal offense for anybody to invoke ethnic or religious hatred during campaigns whatsoever. You are liable to jail for 12 months or a fine of 1 million naira. All the people that are evoking ethnic and religious hatred, they are not even hiding. They are there. How many of them have been arrested? How many of them have been investigated. That is the culture of impunity. I want to tell the young generation, you are not the generation of ethnic or religious hatred against each other. Like a presenter rightly said, these men are simply hypocritically using you. Amongst them, they do not recognize ethnic or religious bias. They meet at the airports, they hug, but they come home to tell you somebody is taking your land. That land, they have been governing you. How have they fared well in providing democracy dividends for you? When it comes to election, they want to divide you so that you be killing each other. When their children will be studying abroad, when their children will not be leading the riots. There are no Yoruba, there are no Hausa, there are no Igbo. Nigerian constitution recognizes that Nigeria is for Nigerians. Lagos is for Lagosians. Anambra is for Anambrarians. Please eschew religious and ethnic hatred. We cannot go the way of genocide in Rwanda. We cannot go the way of Somalia. We are good people. We are a happy nation. I am advising. They are hypocrites. Choose leaders that will be there to better your lots, whoever they are, wherever they come from. In FCT, the Labour Party has produced an Ireti. The name Ireti comes from Southwest. That is our philosophy. We are not looking at your ethnic or religious background. We are looking at your character, capacity, and competence.
All right, Barrister Kenneth Okonkwo, thank you very much. And of course, Sazel Uzi and Alistair Shoyode. Thanks. We're going to have to take a short break now on Good Morning Nigeria live on NTA's network service. After the break, we'll continue with the conversation.
Since I joined this program don't help me. They carry the money, give me. I take join with the money, carry go market. As you see now, my market now come be fine past before. These are asusu that we make. The money now come big fast. I take buy this thing, I feed buy what I am now, buy carry plantain.
Yeah, welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria on NTA's network service. I want us to talk briefly, if time permits, of course, we can elongate the conversation. One of the challenges that came up on the 25th of February had to do with logistics. And that is also a perennial issue that INEC has been grappling with. And of course, once you have logistics snarls, the knock-on effect is obvious. Late arrival of men and material, late arrival of presiding officers, late commencement of accreditation, well into the night, and on and on. I wouldn't know what reasons we have this time around. But some said, one reason or the other. But it's also been thrown into the conversations in the public domain that there probably was sabotage. And in which case that this was, again, probably in the imagination of persons or in the speculation of some persons that this was part of a voter suppression mechanism. So, we know the strong areas, Alistair strong area, and we are supposed to send materials there, send our drivers there. Our drivers will not come until 12 noon, and then, of course, you have crisis. Is there a way INEC can overcome this? I know that there was an MOU signed with transport unions and so on and so forth, but can we overcome this? Because that was part of the frustration, palpable frustrations that voters encountered on the 25th of February. Oluwole.
Yes, indeed. It has become like a recurring decimal. It's almost you divide 10 by 3, you get 3.33333. And obviously, it will appear systemic because there's been change of personnel in the commission over the years, yet it's there. But in everything that we do, we must situate any actions of anybody within the environment which it operates. I don't know the reasons this time around, but I can give some of the reasons that things happen. Yes, there's an understanding, not just the transport unions, but transport owners. Different models have been tried. In the military era, I think people suggestion is a very good suggestion. You pull on state resources. All local governments, all state governments, all public companies should give their vehicles, make their vehicles available to the commission for deployment. They are state vehicles, they are paid with taxpayers' money. This is a state exercise, so why don't you do that? Sounds good. But two things we encountered then. One, some of these vehicles, you spend so much money in trying to put them in a serviceable condition to utilize them. That's number one. Or number two, some of the organization said, look, we gave you last time, we're not satisfied with the condition in which you brought them back. They were badly used. So we are reluctant and we're not going to allow you to use them next time. These are the issues. Part of the issue also is the fact that, look, how comfortable will some people be seeing INEC officials in certain local government or state vehicles? If I go to Anambra, if I go to Lagos, if I go to Edo or Sokoto, you now see the opposition party in that state sees INEC people in XYZ state government vehicle. I don't think they'll be too comfortable with that. It's in an ideal situation, in an ideal world, in most other countries, that is not an issue. It is a government vehicle being used for a government exercise, state vehicle for a state exercise. There shouldn't be anything. But because of the federal system we operate, there's issues of trust and confidence are there. Now, in the past also, you do an understanding with certain people and say, look, I hire a vehicle. And it goes there on election day. And I heard it happened this time, but it's only I can say that. We negotiated to pay 1,000 or 2,000 for the day. We get there, it says, no, sorry, if you don't give me 5,000, I don't move. Blackmail. Mm-hmm. You are going to spend time there negotiating and trying to sort out. There is no way polls will open on time. There are sometimes you go, the person doesn't turn up. You have a negotiation with the person, he may have taken advance, or he may not, he doesn't turn up. What do you do? Other times, and this involves not just cars, but boats, marine transport systems. In some other cases, politicians will buy up the people. You have negotiated with them. Maybe they say 5,000, the man comes, offers them 10,000. So you are at the politician's mercy. So you situate in the country and environment in which we are in. It's in us. It's rather sad, rather unfortunate. I don't want to speak down on our people, but a lot of things happen. And then there's also sabotage. Okay, that's not rule out.
Before I ask my question, just on this now, there were also complaints about some of those vehicle owners not having enough money, cash, to buy fuel. Yes. Hopefully now that there's been the old notes have been asked to get back to circulation.
Are they back?
Well, I don't, that's what the law says. The law has.
Well, somebody said it's not about law just now. It's about implementation and enforcement.
Well, we know that.
There, but if the cash is not available, nothing will change. Nothing will change.
Now, in other climes, in a state of war or conflict, you appeal to other military services to use some of their vehicles. Can the military help out in this instance? So it doesn't generate any kind of sentiment of maybe partisanship.
On the contrary, it does. On the contrary, we've seen the military get involved in areas they should not get involved in. You've forgotten in 2019 there were issues even where the police against the military. When the military took over River State collection centers, where some branches of the military were now dictating things, allowing who should come in, who should not come into the collection center, which is not their job. They now took over. INEC officials were expected, or they demand that they hand over collated results and unit results to certain people. So don't they are Nigerians. Don't isolate the Nigerian institution. Not isolate them completely. But to be fair, the Air Force, especially the Army, has been of very great use to the Commission in the past. They've lifted things for materials. Even in 2019, they lifted materials. So I must point that one out. But you do that, and sometimes I recall after Ekiti 2006 or 2016, where people said, "Oh, you are over-militarizing the process."
It became an issue of militarization of elections. I recall we had a conversation. But Claire, I want to ask Barrister Okonkwo this same issue around logistics and how we can overcome it in the governorship election. If it is a matter of law, there are two aspects. It could be civil, breach of contract. It could also be criminal, assuming sabotage is proved, to say there's an infraction against the Electoral Act, your conduct had impeded the smooth conduct of the election. But again, the laws are there, but it is the enforcement. Just beyond the black letters of the law, what is feasible to do in the circumstance? You listen to Osazewzi, and this is a very brilliant explanation, dispassionate, to say we appear to be at the mercy of logistics providers for elections, and that's a critical element in the success of the conduct of elections.
You know, forgive me, but I respectfully disagree with him. He that pays the piper dictates the tune. You're a Nigerian. You did not fall from the sky. You had 1 year to prepare, and finances were not your problem. They confessed. INEC is the only institution in Nigeria that whatever is approved for them is given to them. No INEC chairman has come out to say that the money they requested was not given to them. Can you imagine that we had to go to court to stop a certain transporter who is partisan in Lagos from being hired by INEC? What do you expect him to do? Just check all those areas where they are saying materials did not arrive early. Just check it, count it. There are some areas that you know that obviously the opponents of such places are the people that have strongholds there. So people will sabotage. If you choose a partisan person, he has an interest in it. So INEC had this 1 year. We have efficient transport system. You know, they are not paying me for that. But you have the boats, yes, for instance. You have the Uber.
How can we?
You have the
this and that. How can we resolve that?
That's what I'm saying.
Give us your own perspective.
Good. Yes. The first of all is sincerity of purpose. They know what to do. They don't want to do it. You know the criminals. Okay, I just mentioned. You have the boats. You have the Uber. You don't go to roadside when you can afford, standardized transport independent systems.
Logistics systems.
Logistics. You have them. Why don't you employ their services? You are going to get individuals. You want to get 176,000 different individuals for the 176,000 polling units when you can hire an established transport system and they get the badge that they use to operate that day. When you are in your house, you call a transporter, you call a taxi. He comes to your house to pick you. They have become efficient in that. They have the system like our beavers. Simply use them. And on that day, wherever you want them, they will come, pick it, go to the place you need them, and after that you pay them.
Okay, let's have your inputs on this as well.
Actually, I'm just going through my head. Saying accountability is very, very important. Transparency is very important. 305 billion allocated to INEC. Based on the expectation of people, maybe 70 million people are going to vote. Somehow we have less than that number. My question now is, out of that 305 billion, how much is left behind that INEC did not spend? We need to get that information at the end of the day. There's almost about 30% people that turn up. What happened to all these other places that the staff did not go and logistics were not implemented? What happened to that money? I want INEC to take care of that. Information is very, very important because out of 305 billion, it means that maybe INEC only utilized 100 billion. They too need to come to account just like they're asking political parties. The other point that for consideration is the beavers, which is computerized machine or whatever you may call it. The intention of the beavers is immediately at the polling unit, you transmit the result to the central unit.
No, we're looking at Ali. We're looking at logistics now.
Yes, I want to add. I'm running into it.
Yes, because
so based with that, beavers, right? We can eliminate the paper voting because the thing is, the beavers recognize you by your fingerprint. Why can't you use the same beavers down to vote, which then again is transmitted just the same way you're saying the final result should be transmitted immediately to the center? You can use the same beavers now then to do your election. That eliminates the logistic issue completely.
No, it doesn't.
It does. Because the beavers are already at the polling unit.
No,
the beavers are in the polling. Okay, so that eliminates the yes. materials. So
no. If you say somebody, the beavers is not just at the polling unit on its own. Somebody has to convey.
Yes, but then
no, that somebody doesn't live from his home.
Sir, Mr. Kingsley, the beavers is one machine that represents maybe 10,000 people at that polling unit.
No, not more than 500 or thereabouts.
Right, 500.
Yes.
So that's 500 papers that you don't need anymore. Now you only need the machine, which is just one machine, not 499 more papers and the people.
It only reduces the quantity of, the volume of logistics that you need.
Well,
it doesn't totally eliminate it.
No, it's only 2 machines per polling unit, the backup. Now you have 176,000.
Okay. Where do you move those machines from?
Yes.
The machine is easy to move, just like the same way.
Where just give us a trail. Where do you move it from? From storage to polling unit.
INEC officials
and the machine. Hang on. Yes. Storage to polling unit to collation center.
Now remember, the machine are programmed. You from this place, when they're connected all through the internet, can read every polling machine from here right now because they're all connected. You have already sent them off. You can send them 3 weeks in advance. You know they are there. Okay? Until when you hear from the central unit, this is computer, we're talking about technology. Here now I have tell all this machine all around Nigeria active. I am sitting here as well at the end of, by 4:30 p.m. saying inactive. And all of them will shut down. That's the end of the story.
Anyway, that's another level that we need to...
Alista, we understand your explanation, but the issue of logistics we're talking about is not addressed.
No, yes.
Break it down. First of all, you heard what Osaze said, and we know this. Look, you pay, let's give an example. You pay a transporter, or rather, you engage a transporter for 1,000 naira. And on D-Day, he says, look, no, if you don't give me 5,000, I'm not moving from here. And the beavers, they have to be a safe and secure location. I can't take, let's face it, in public service, there are certain public documents you don't take to your residence or your private home. So how do you convey me? Suppose I also get as crazy as a transporter who wishes to blackmail. So on the day of the voting, I just said, no, this beaver is not leaving my house today, it's here. What do you do?
Anyway, we don't have that.
You have the law.
Just in less than 30 seconds.
Right.
We don't have time.
You have the law to deal with people who blackmail you. But let's be realistic.
That will be after the fact.
Yes, let's be realistic. I arrived in Nigeria just a day ago, right? I cannot use the currency that we're told, which I read that I can use the old currency, which somehow when I was coming, I found the old currency in my pocket. They say, okay, now I need them. Let me use it. And then I found out that you can't use it. Then I got to a shop. I cannot buy anything. Somebody has to give me 1,000 naira by luck in the shop before I can spend. Then I brought out my card. The card was not authorized, yet is a valid card. Now, in that situation, coming out to try to buy petrol, the long queue, more than 1 kilometer in some places. How then do I get for the car with the driver? Then we have to go to a lady who was selling petrol by the roadside. In fact, when they saw us coming, they started running. We said, oh, please, I just want petrol so that this car doesn't stop, okay? And true to God, up to this minute, the lady actually gave us the foil and said, sir, somehow I just trust you. You will send me the money when the network become active. And that's how I end up. So in that situation, you can be realistic to say, okay, yes, 1,000 before. Suddenly, the Nigerian situation now made it 3,000. In true sense, I don't have the 3,000, but you want it. Somehow, it might be truthful that actually you must give them the 3,000 just because the Nigerian situation just suddenly.
So I just like to quickly and just in less than 60 seconds, and it's on the issue of peace accord and the role of traditional rulers. We haven't seen traditional rulers come out to speak, to the people. And we haven't seen even the initiators of the peace accord, to come out to say, look, your parties sign to this peace accord. Speak to your followers. Barrister Kenneth Okonkwo, 30 seconds, please.
Yes, well, because you see, we're rounding up, and yes. we ought to talk about governorship
traditional rulers.
Yes, and we are rounding up. So please, let me use the opportunity to say that Labour Party has no alliance with any particular party, whether in Rivers or Lagos or anywhere. Please vote on that day for Labour Party candidates in Rivers State, Beatrice Utubo, Rhodes Vivo in Lagos. They told me I was coming here to talk about governorship, you know.
You have eaten up a great deal of your time.
Oh yes, that is more important to me. Now,
not the
peace accord. The peace accord, like I said, we don't have a problem with policies, with plans, with strategies. Our problem has always been lack of implementation, lack of political will, institutional weaknesses.
That's what we're saying. What can they do now?
This peace plan was there, signed by everybody with a lot of fanfare. Yet, the government that supervised this peace process, seeing the impunity going on, obvious, because the government has the sole right.
It is not a matter of government.
No. The government has the sole right to implement the laws. They are the ones that have the. They have the monopoly of force. You cannot use force except you are good. They have said what they are supposed to say. They have said what they are supposed to say.
My final comment really is
the parties fold their arms and watch.
My Igbo is not very strong, but the traditional rulers somehow have found themselves in middle. So my message is, dan Allah don wanda ke jin wannan abubuwan kar ku je ku yi hada, ku je ku zabe wanda kuke son ku zabe. Allah ba Najeriya karhi mu ji dadin Najeriya. Ejo elodibo. Elo mu anything fair ku je governor, you could just something. May God bless Nigeria.
Amen. Interpreter.
Well, you didn't translate that for our viewers.
My message basically is, please, the peace accord is very important to all of us. Nigeria, the great people, great country. Let's vote for the right person that we want to be our leaders. May God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
You didn't also say that in Pidgin, but that will be for another day.
Okay. Go out there.
No, go vote.
Make una go vote. For the peace and stability of this country, all of us be one. Yes. May God bless Nigeria.
Yes, so vote for Labour.
That's right.
Yes, Claire, that was a good one.
Yeah,
it's been sometimes heated this morning, but of course, we hope our viewers have enjoyed our interactions this morning. A few regrets, but any comments that were made, no intention to slow any person. Monday, of course, will be another day for us.
We've not signed off our guest.
Well, that's because we're pressed for time. Yes, that's what he kept saying. I'm sure we talked about the guests.
Okay.
Everybody. Sazeuzi, we're grateful to you. Kenneth Okonkwo, we're grateful to you. And Lister, the man who spoke in Hausa and Yoruba, but couldn't speak in Pidgin. And couldn't speak. Well, of course, he apologized for that early on. We will thank all of you for being with us on Good Morning Nigeria. Of course, this will be a continuing conversation because next week, of course, we'll be having the governorship and state houses of assembly elections. Governorship, 28 of them, they are crisscrossing their various states, and everyone is pumping flesh and trying to be a good guy to get elected. My name is Kingsley Osadolo. Thank you for tuning in to look after yourselves and enjoy your weekend.
And I'm Claire Adelabu Abdul Razak. I urge you to join us in a campaign against rape and rapists. Please go out there and be peaceful, be your brother's keeper. Bye-bye.